remain light. We'll see it off and on continuing into this evening. Total accumulation of, at this point, we see accumulation of between 2 and 4 inches of snow by the end of the day, depending on where you are in the city. Temperatures in the 30s right now, but with wind chill between 20 and 25 degrees in real terms. Tonight, temperatures will go down in the mid-20s with wind chill as low as 15 degrees. So we will have code blue in effect, and we'll be doing extensive outreach to any homeless New Yorkers and anyone who needs our help. The cold and snow will continue tomorrow. We expect, again, light snow beginning tomorrow evening, Tuesday evening, continuing through Wednesday evening. Again, very limited accumulation at this point, between 2 and 3 inches total from tomorrow evening through Wednesday evening. I think you've all heard me say before, that could change. So we'll certainly be ready if that number gets higher or if things move more quickly. Wind chill tomorrow forecast between 15 and 25 degrees. So the real feeling out in the streets tomorrow will be between 15 and 25 degrees. So people need to be alert. Streets could be slippery. Obviously, it could be cold, and therefore you want to not stay outside any longer than you have to. Asking people to walk carefully, drive carefully, leave extra time to make sure you're safe. And as usual, whenever we have difficult conditions, we ask New Yorkers to check in on your neighbors, check in on senior citizens, check in on folks with disabilities. Anyone you know may have special needs. Please be there for them. Now, we had a bit of a flooding issue earlier this morning. It was limited, but still worth noting in some of the coastal areas of southern Queens, southern Brooklyn, and Staten Island. We saw higher than normal water levels this morning. In most cases, this resulted in some street flooding and not damage to private property. But we have sent OEM out with emergency management responders to the affected neighborhoods to monitor the situation and help in any way we can. Department of Environmental Protection has sent crews to affected neighborhoods to make sure that storm drains are cleared so we don't see the flooding exacerbated. And the Sanitation Department is pre-salting flooded roads to prevent icing conditions as temperatures drop below freezing. So obviously we want to make sure if any water does pool up that we have the salt on it to keep it from icing up too much. This situation is very limited, but it's another reminder of why we have a $20 billion resiliency plan. $20 billion being spent on resiliency all over the city. All 5 boroughs, particular focus on Jamaica Bay, which is where a lot of this morning's condition was. This plan, obviously, a lot of the pieces have already moved. 3.5 million cubic yards of additional sand have been put on the Rockaways for added resiliency, and nearly 5 miles of dunes on Queens public beaches have been upgraded. And there have been upgrades to the bulkheads along Beach Channel Drive, and that was an area that got hit very hard by Sandy, so that upgrade is very important to the people of that community. Tides this evening and tomorrow morning are forecast to be lower than this morning, so we do not expect as much as we saw this morning. We expect only minor levels of flooding during the high tide coming up tonight. Just a few words in Spanish, and then want to take any questions that are weather-related, and then we'll take any other questions you may have. Estamos esperando nieve y temperaturas bajas en los próximos días. Algunas zonas costeras se han inundado un poco y esperamos un poco más durante periodos de marea alta. Les pido a todos los neoyorquinos que tengan cuidado al caminar y conducir. Y por favor, cuiden a sus vecinos y ancianos. So with that, first, any questions about the weather, and then we'll take questions on any other topic. Anything weather-related, please?
Mayor, do you think there'll be any effect, or what will be the effect of the weather on the hope count tonight? How long do you think it'll be out there?
First of all, I do not expect much of an effect on the hope count based on what we know at this moment. I think we'll get a good count. Now, I would emphasize that our new Homestat initiative will include a constant count of people on the street, and we think will be a much superior resource to what we do in the annual Hope Count. So the Hope Count is a good thing and a helpful thing. It's a national standard. I'll be joined tonight by HUD Secretary Castro, which will be a great honor for this city. Thank you. And it does give us an important vantage point. But our new effort through Homestead, I think, is going to give us a lot more information going forward. Yes? One of my staff, who is Chinese speaking, Tommy Lin, was helpful to me in my pronunciation. I have work to do, though. Yes?
On the weather, the flooding seems to come as a little bit unexpected, at least to some extent. When did you or your administration realize that it was going to be more serious than we knew, and that people were going to have flooded streets, flooded cars?
Right. Well, we found out as obviously it was happening. It was not expected from the original reports. Thank God, again, very limited. But I want to make this very clear. We are in constant contact with the National Weather Service. That's the best predictor we have. They would be the first to say they give us the best information they have, but sometimes on the ground things happen differently. Either there's more or faster dynamics than expected. So we had not seen that potential. Thank God, again, it was limited. But we wanted to let people know that from what's being projected right now, we do not expect a repeat tonight. Any other questions weather-related? And then we'll open up to other things. Going once, twice, anything. Go ahead, please.
Mr. Mayor, the NYPD has been making use of a nuisance abatement law to take people out of their apartments more than half the time when they haven't been convicted of a crime. I'm wondering what you think of the way this law is used, and do you plan to make any changes on how it's implemented in response to some of the criticism we've gotten?
The concept of the law is to make sure that if people are posing a threat to their neighbors, that we're able to address that threat. It is not that different than what we do in public housing when someone is a danger to their fellow residents, that there are measures we take to make sure that they don't create a danger. There should always be due process, so we're certainly going to look carefully at the protocols to make sure that there's appropriate due process and decisions are made carefully. But the underlying idea is an appropriate one, that if we believe someone is an ongoing threat and treating their neighbors inappropriately, it's one of the steps we have the option to take. Yes?
On horse carriages, you received some contributions from some of the folks who are, supporting the legislation. To what extent do you see that as that it helped it along the ballot, excuse the wording, but that those contributions were problematic to the bill moving forward?
I don't think it's an issue, and as you know, there was a vote set. The Teamsters Union, with whom we had negotiated in good faith, and the council had negotiated in good faith, pulled out of the deal, and that made it impossible for the vote to go forward Friday. But as I said on Friday, we will, or on Thursday actually, we will look for a path forward on this issue. Yeah.
On the crane collapse.
Mm-hmm.
On Friday, you had spoken about how lucky you were that only one person was killed.
Yes.
That the city had already very strict crane laws in place. But then over the weekend, you initiated the safety policy
Mm-hmm.
that you're in effect today. Why the modification?
Well, both pieces are true, meaning, the last fatal collapse that we had on the site that was monitored by the city was 2008. And there was a series of reforms that were made at that time that I think really did have a good impact. They were done in the previous administration, but obviously the proof's in the pudding. Even through a construction boom, we did not see an incident like this. We will not know until the investigation is complete what exactly caused this accident. And sometimes there are sometimes very particular, very unusual conditions that cause an accident. But we can't speculate until we do a full investigation. What we can say is, upon reviewing this specific situation, we thought there were areas that we could go farther, and we thought it was smart to go farther. So now, for example, if we have a projected wind velocity of over 20 miles an hour, we're going to be telling the operators of the crawler cranes that they need to bring their cranes down in advance of that wind hitting. Or if we get a report that the wind has suddenly reached that level, we'll tell people they have to bring those cranes down immediately. We'll make sure that FDNY, along with NYPD, DOT, are working to make sure the area surrounding the site is clear of pedestrians and motorists. We'll be doing more notification of surrounding buildings, and obviously we're going to have a task force that's going to look at these issues more deeply. I think the central point here is you know, around the time we had the last fatal collapse that was a city-regulated site. That was toward the end of the previous building boom. We're now in the middle of a very intense building boom, as I said yesterday. Very good for the city on many ways, but public safety comes first. We're not going to let anything be a higher priority than public safety. So we thought, out of an abundance of caution, these new approaches would add to the safety of our people. Well, we just, again, it's not appropriate to say what happened until we know exactly what happened. We can safely say that these policies will keep people safe going forward. Yes?
Can you say a little bit more about what you mean when you talk about a path forward for the forced carriage legislation? Is that new legislation, and how could it be different to ensure that it would succeed with this legislation?
Well, we'll certainly have that conversation with the City Council. But again, we had a piece of legislation that clearly had the votes, and we have to now make sense, since one of the parties that was backing that legislation is not backing anymore. We'll have to make sense of what makes sense going forward. So we'll have that conversation with the City Council.
A lot of people have questioned why you would expend so much energy on something that a majority of the electorate, when polled, says is not that big of a deal. Do you feel like this has been a...
I think you guys think I've expended more energy than I've expended. No, I'm saying I think you think I've expended more energy than I expended. My energy, as you just look at the issues I've worked on over the last 2 years, I put a huge amount of energy into pre-K. I put a huge amount of energy into affordable housing, into public safety. Certainly, I think this legislation is necessary, but I think you guys are interpreting in ways that don't reflect the reality. Yeah.
At the risk of belaboring the forced carriage thing.
Please, why shouldn't we?
If you haven't reached a new deal or succeeded in coming to a compromise solution that everyone can agree with, do you see this being a part of your platform for re-election?
I believe exactly what I've always believed. Yeah. You all really need to think about what's important, but go ahead. No, it's foolish. It's just foolish. I have disagreements with that union because we are trying to protect the lives of New Yorkers, and they obviously have disagreed with our Vision Zero strategy. I have disagreements with them that they're talking about now on affordable housing. I'm very proud of the efforts we're making to create affordable housing for New Yorkers, and I think it's just politics. Yes. I haven't paid enough attention to the situation.
This is about the implicit bias training. The president of the Sergeants Benevolent Association says that this is just a way to cover up the backsliding quality of life here in New York City. What's your response to that, and why do you believe it is so important?
Quality of life in New York City is getting better. I don't know what city he's living in, but in our city, quality of life is getting better. We outlined a lot of that in the State of the City speech. I don't know what standard he's using. By my standard, 220,000 more jobs in the last 2 years, crime down, test scores in our schools and graduation rates going up. That's quality of life improving, and we're very proud of the new initiatives like a Clean NYC that are going to make our streets cleaner. Implicit bias training is necessary. Look, every one of us has biases. Every single one. We're humans. And the difference is that our public servants, and I count myself among them, have to work hard to make sure that no bias seeps into the work we do. And obviously for those who protect our safety, it's particularly important. So this is an approach that has been proven to have a very helpful impact in terms of helping officers understand the situation, helping to de-escalate, which is so much of the focus that Commissioner Bratton has put into the training initiative. I think it's smart. I think it's going to protect our officers and lead to de-escalation of conflict. So I think it's absolutely the right direction to go in.
Mr. Mayor, there's a conference of mayors today in Albany. You're not there. Can you talk about the decision to stay in town, why you didn't?
Just we had a lot going on now that we had to take care of.
Mr. Mayor, questions have been raised about the training of crane inspectors and as well as crane operators in New York City.
A couple of different answers. So in terms of this particular incident, the individual who was running the crane was highly certified, a union member, I mean, someone who clearly was very capable. But we're going to look at the whole situation very objectively, obviously. On first blush, that's not, nothing gives us a reason to believe that was the particular problem here. There is a separate issue about what level of certification makes sense going forward. There's a legislative discussion going on. We'll certainly be a part of that. But what we're going to say is to this task force is to look at the whole situation, a group of experts to figure out, given what's happening with the amount of building in this city, given what's happening with technology, and new technology that hopefully makes the process better and safer, how should we approach things going forward? Now, we'll look at the whole picture, so it certainly might touch those issues as well. Yeah. I feel the same thing I've always felt. We have an obligation to create affordable housing. 421A required reform. The previous approach was not right. We needed a method for creating affordable housing that was more fair to the taxpayers, that came with fundamental reforms, including not subsidizing luxury housing on a vast scale, which is what the previous 421A was doing, and will give us a lot more affordability. Now, I think there's still a path to get to something like that. And that's what we need to do. So from my point of view, the core impulse behind these reforms is absolutely where we need to go, and I'm still committed to that.
Mr. Mayor, the Hope Count, of course, is tonight. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit what you hope to learn this evening from the county, and also if you could address some of the criticisms, people who say that a one-night snapshot doesn't provide an accurate count.
Yeah, we spoke to this a moment ago, but I'll reiterate. That's why we're very proud of the new Homestat initiative, which is going to give us literally a daily look at what's happening with homeless folks on the street. The Hope Count, I don't think anyone, even the leading experts on homelessness, would say this is the perfect way to do a count, but it became the federal standard. It became the way you could compare from year to year and city to city. And we certainly undertake it, with all the energy we've got. So for me, it's always an opportunity when you do something like this, or when I visited the Bellevue shelter some weeks ago, just to get perspective. But I think in terms of a deeper understanding of what's happening and a more accurate count that really looks at how things change from week to week and month to month, that will come from our new Homestat initiative.
Is any of that data available yet for Homestat?
No, Homestat is ramping up into March. In March, we'll be at full strength, and that's when we're going to be able to give more specific and accurate counts, but we certainly look forward to sharing that information. Thanks, everyone.